On this episode of AV Week, we look at software-based AV systems, AV over IP, and the $1 billion AV company. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 604, recorded Friday, March 17th, 2023. Flexible AV. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Walker. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, a young man I've known for a lot of years, back when both of us had longer hair and wasn't so gray. His name is Steve Greenblatt. He is from Control Concepts. How are you, sir?
I don't like to admit that I had longer hair. I like to keep it short. I'm doing great. Thanks.
It was less gray, too. I'm just going to say, put that out there.
I work on it.
Yeah. Also with us is a young man I haven't seen for a minute, Emile Coevering from Socialure. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. And a young lady I got to meet almost a year ago at USC last summer when Joe Way and the gang put on their demonstration of all their new classrooms. Adaline Tatum, welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
Absolutely, good to see you. Adaline is at USC and is a PhD candidate. PhD candidate, can we say that right now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. That means she's the smartest person on this call, gentlemen. So, all right. I don't have a PhD, so,
But
and I know Greenblatt doesn't.
You have experience.
Wow.
For me, that value.
As my grandfather would say, that and 50 cents will get you a cup of coffee, but 50 cents won't get you a cup of coffee anymore. So, all right. First story comes to us from our friends over at AV Magazine. NDI, the Network Device Interface, has emerged as the market leader in video products. The technology has developed by NewTek has quote-unquote revolutionized video production workflows with low latency video transmission over the network. The increasing adoption of NDI by major broadcasters, streaming platforms, and live event producers underscores its position as the preferred choice for IP-based video production. Mention this because a couple different things. First of all, NDI is certainly a transport. We have to mention the fact that NewTek developed it. However, they're not the only ones doing it, right? It's not just, you can buy a NewTek NDI camera. Darn near almost every camera manufacturer in the world has an NDI product, or at least the ability to get in their traditional video streams on an NDI platform. In addition, this article mentions streaming platforms. I would also put video conferencing platforms in there as well, because you can insert NDI into Teams and you can insert NDI into Zoom. So, Emile, we'll put this in the AV over IP category, although slight asterisk, I would say it might do more, right, than a traditional AV over IP. So what is the AV over IP technology? What is the system that we see the most, and how much appetite is there for more platforms?
I think there's always going to be room for as many platforms as there are. I think what happens is that people naturally will prefer a certain product or a certain platform, and that will just rise to the top. So I don't think there should be any limit as far as how many platforms, how many different technologies there should be. I think eventually the better one will win out. And the only thing that I think is very important is that flexibility, is that people using a certain product or hardware using a certain platform is able to integrate with multiple different platforms. And that's why you mentioned you see it in Teams and you see it in Zoom. It's because they allow for a lot of different ways of doing the thing. And that allows for users and end clients or the installers, integrators, to set up their best way of getting to the end result. And I think that's super important. I think that flexibility is now increasing. You see more and more tools giving more and more openness and transparency in how things work, which eventually just end up in better products. So I think that's what's important.
Adaline, we're going to bring you on this. I mentioned the fact that I met you last year when you guys at USC put together. It was a tour, right? It was a mini trade show and a tour of your systems. Correct me if I'm wrong. USC has standardized, at least your group has standardized on NVX, right? Crest on NVX for your AV over IP system, including a pretty significant deployment of an esports installation where you're using NVX for esports. When you guys were looking at that, and as you're seeing how it's being used and how it's being deployed, are you seeing anybody else coming in and say, oh, we can do this more than NVX, or is NVX kind of your standard and you guys are rocking with that?
So great question. And yes, NVX is our standard. We have a contract. The university goes with vendors, and we have to have certain contracts. So NVX is our standard. That's what we will be running with for the next couple of years. And we have had companies that came into our annual, well, it's an annual now. It's an annual LE day, whereby people would come in and check out our environments. And we have had different institution companies in the AV industry and IT industry that have shared that they would like to learn more about it. They've been in touch with our architects or engineers and just having meetings and those conversations to find out if that's the way for them to go. We have seen stability over the past years that we've had it. We implemented these rooms in 210 classrooms. So roughly right now we have almost 230 approximately rooms that between auditorium and classrooms that we manage, and it's stable. It's really stable.
All right. Steve, I'm probably going to forget somebody, so I'm not going to name them because I'm going to tick somebody off. I've written down 6 different types of technologies, not companies, don't put anybody at me, types of technologies that are out there, right? Including NDI, a couple others out there. I'm going to bring up 172110 because it's more of an open platform as well, right? As you're looking at the systems you guys are helping and you're writing code for manufacturers, right? Is there a limit here to how many more, Emile says we should let everybody, as long as the market will bear it. Well, how much will the market bear, do we think?
The answer to that, I guess, depends on what the clients are going to be accepting. Quite honestly, I think the thing that is become a big theme is interoperability, and I think back to what Emile was saying is that we really need to look at if we start to introduce more technologies, what's going to get adopted and where and also how does that impact the landscape and does it make the industry better, or does it create more complexity and confusion and is it going to make things more fragmented? So I think one of the takeaways probably from the supply chain crisis is to be able to have substitutable products. So what I would say is that there needs to be an emphasis on trying to consolidate probably some of the technologies and work toward trying to have more products work together rather than trying to have more disparate technologies, unless they are serving a specific need or they really are made for a particular application, or they really, perhaps government, perhaps in medical, perhaps in very long distances, there's a particular need for a technology. But I think consolidating is probably going to be more favorable to the clients, and I think that's who we all are trying to serve.
That's a great point, Steve, because when I was reading the first story, I was like, the teacher brain in me started working. I was like, what is the reason why video over IP took so long to adopt an audio? Like, for me, that's a question that popped into my mind. I'm like, I'm going to bring this to the team here today because I want to learn more. Like, why do we feel, or why do we think that it took so long?
I think Steve already kind of answered that question by the fact that being more flexible with the other integrations is what's so important. And that's what we see happening now. And that's why you see more adoption. That's it.
Do we think okay, that is great. And do we think that maybe some companies had a little bit of fear that we don't want to integrate because they might want to take a larger portion of our invention. Or,
100%.
you know,
Yeah,
I appreciate the flexibility and the integration because I think that's how we're going to make the industry better. But
no, I definitely think there's always the fear, and I run it like I'm coming from the content side and creative side, so my ideas are a little bit more out of whack than regular integrations. But I think that fear is not really well founded sometimes, because if you have a good product and you have a good service, then people will want to use that, and that's what your unique selling point should be. Not if you're like blocking a certain integration of not working with your product. I think it's the opposite. The more integrations you have, the more flexibility you have, the more people you also introduce to your service. Like if I know that there's a certain product that allows for a certain technology that I already use, and I'm like, oh, well, that's easy. Now I can onboard and start using it, and maybe I switch completely. But the big thing is I think, and that's what I mentioned earlier. I think the market will decide what the better products are, and I think being flexible with your integrations, I think is super important. I think that should never be underestimated how important that is.
Yeah.
And just if I could add one more point,
Yeah,
or
sure.
ask Emile, because you touched on something really dear to my heart: instructional design. How do you, as a instructional designer or from the content side, see designing classroom curriculum over this new technology, with this new technology, improving the deliverance or the way professors deliver instruction?
It's a hard question to untangle, but I think it's the same process of flexibility, and also like the one of the issues with flexibility and a lot of integrations is that there are a lot of information to learn about, and there's a lot of information, and there's going to be more and more information. You're going to have an information overload. You cannot explain everything, but that's why I think it is better to teach like the logical steps and how to approach an issue, and then get to the desired result by using the different integrations, and then picking up and learning about those integrations along the way. I think that's the best approach, because I don't think it's necessary, if there's like a product that has 100 integrations, to learn about all 100 integrations and then go start using the product. No, you start using it, and then and that's another big thing for software and stuff like that as well. The software kind of has to guide you through that, has to guide you through that process, educate you along the way, so that you also remember it for next time. And again, you just get better and better at using the tool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next story comes to us from SCN. Midwich has surpassed the £1 billion revenue. That's 1 billion with a B. For those of you who are not in the UK, I shouldn't say that. For those of you in the US, how about that? That's $1.2 billion. The achievement comes as a result of the company's quote-unquote strategic acquisitions, strong organic growth, and focus on customer success. The company's success is also highlighted by its resilient performance during COVID-19 as it adapted and capitalized on increased demand for remote work. Adaline, we're going to start with you. You are not a direct customer of Midwich. Really quickly, in the States, Midwich owns Starin Marketing. So, but you are a customer of their customers. What is the biggest danger? What is the biggest threat here in these $1 billion AV companies, whether that is an integrator or a distributor or, quite frankly, even a manufacturer?
So I think one of the biggest risks would be if the supply chain issue that we've been having, if, say, 3 of my classroom goes down in an auditorium, and I'm not able to get my Creston UC engine that I need, professors will be in an uproar. And that, for me, is like a huge risk, because we sometimes have just a simple they didn't touch the touch panel to make the screen come down for them to teach, and that goes up to the provost's office. Even though I do my best, our team do our best, and I think we're great at it by having our numerous amount of student worker, not to boast, but USC has that privilege, I must say, to be able to hire 85 student workers for us. And I have trained them. Our team have trained them. We work diligently to make sure that everyone knows what to do when you walk in that space. If personally I can't be in the space to train faculty, we have leads, senior leads that go out and do this stuff. But simple things as they didn't turn their mute button on their computer and they get a little feedback. So for me, it's a risk if we don't have the equipment in that space to have it operating and instruction ready to go.
All right. Steve, what are the benefits of these multi-billion-dollar multinational companies?
You gave me the tough one, huh? Well, I've heard many times Brock McGinnis on this show talk about how it limits options by having one big player different than a few smaller players, and he has less places that he can go to buy things, less credit availability. So I was just going to steal his point, but the benefits are that there could be a single relationship. There's more of opportunity to buy with a single order. What one purchase order can get a lot more product versus having to go to different vendors and build separate relationships. Possibly pricing power could be available there. The dangers that I see also, though, is making sure, and it goes for everything in the industry, is that the bigger isn't always better, and the consistency needs to be there, because it's very hard to scale companies quite large. I know even from scaling a small company, it's hard to be able to maintain quality and grow and be able to keep processes consistent and the experience consistent and give personalized service to clients.
What are you talking about? We've got like 3 or 4 integrators that are over $1 billion. It's easy. Everybody can do it, right? Emile, you can have either one. You can tell me what the dangers are, or you can tell me what the benefits are of having some of these billion-dollar multinationals.
For me, I don't think it's necessarily about having them have a greater share of the market. I think it's about losing agility and the ability to be flexible, to the ability to innovate. I think when companies like that get bigger, the decision maker gets slower, and it's overall harder to do these things like I mentioned, where you're more flexible, coming up with a new integration or a new idea. You're going to hit more walls along the way when that happens. On the other side, bigger allows for more funding for those innovations, allows for funding for more growth. It allows for better bargaining with the suppliers. So there's pros and cons, but I think it all depends just how the business operates and taking those things in consideration. You can definitely get bigger and still be flexible as well, but it is just these pitfalls and things that become more important the bigger you get.
Yeah. One thing I do want to mention here is Midwich, and this is Tim's personal opinion. I have no dog in this hunt. Midwich or Starin is not a customer of a client of AVNation's. They are a supplier for CTI, which is my day job. They've at least they've maintained some of that flexibility that Emile's talking about by purchasing and acquiring companies in country, right? So they've got an Australian division that they purchased, right? They acquired that company, and they pretty much keep them together, right? Starin here in the States, 100%. They're that, not that they don't report to the UK, but that group has pretty much stayed together. So that's my opinion, and from my perspective, one of the ways that they've been able to maintain some of that flexibility is it's not an overarching edict from on high from London, right? It's, you guys are in your country, you know what to do in your country. Here's some resources and some ways to make you more successful. So, final story comes to us actually from AVNation. It's a blog that we wrote after Steve's last State of Control, which he recorded from ISC. So it was kind of cool. From the Influencers Lounge. You're an influencer, Steve.
Yeah. Who would have known?
I think I knew. It was about the significance, the growing significance of the software side of AV control. This transformation, quite frankly, has been driven by the increased demand for flexibility. Back to what Adaline and you guys were saying, and quite frankly, the cost-effective alternatives to traditional hardware-based control systems. Software-based AV control platforms, they offer seamless integration, customizable user interfaces, and remote monitoring capabilities. Steve, I am going to start with you on this simply because it was based off of you guys' conversation. How quickly are we moving to an only software-based control? Let's pick on that. Software-only control system in the AV space.
Software-only control, we're there. There's a lot of virtualized
But that's
control.
it. No hardware at all. But where it's all software. Like nobody's selling a hardware.
Okay, so software-only AV systems.
Yes.
So I think, aside from endpoints, we're gradually moving in that direction. I think that it's very possible, because if you think about the technology that exists in each of these boxes, who's to say that they couldn't exist on just normal IT hardware? And I think that more and more we're looking at what does that transition mean. The thing, and we continue to have this conversation, and if you stay tuned to State of Control, you'll hear our latest episode, which will be coming out. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot of implications there, because when you're working in a walled garden, if you will, and we use that term a lot, you have a lot more control and a lot less variables. Even going back to one of our, the earlier conversation, is that more options causes more complexity and causes more opportunity for things to not go smoothly. But then the other side of it, it gives you more adaptability and it gives you more options, and we can overcome some of the hurdles that may have prevented us from doing more and being able to provide solutions. So, for example, we can incorporate more modern programming languages. But on the flip side, we also have to now start looking at more security implications. So there's going to be a give and take. I think that it is very much headed toward the direction of more products being under one roof in the software side. So, and not to necessarily use brands, but there are products out there that are combining DSP and control together. There are products that are doing more on the software side. Dante is very much a software platform. So more we're seeing that software is becoming maybe the lubrication, let's say, to bring all the hardware together.
All right, Emile, same sort of question here. Beyond, because Steve kind of got into this, right? And we already talked about the AV transport over the network. Steve got into DSP there for a second. Where else are we going to see, I guess, basically a software-based system in AV where all we have is on ramps and off ramps? Everything else goes in the network. Like how close are we to that system?
I don't necessarily agree that we're going towards a software-only setup, because I think there's always going to be room for specific hardware, especially when it comes to like small form factor hardware. And it's just sometimes it's hard to have like this bigger device that you have, and it can do a lot of different things, but you actually just need the one functionality. It's also has to do with cost and things like that, right? However, I do think that it's getting way more software-centric which meaning that all these different hardware devices are going to last longer. They're going to be able to do more things in that smaller form factor, and being able to integrate with each other, being able to like use them more as like building blocks to create your system, and then let the software do the heavy lifting. I think that's what's already happening, but I think that's happening more and more in a faster pace. I'm very excited about it because I'm definitely someone that's very much more on the software front of things, and I'm excited again and again, and I think that's kind of the overarching theme of this conversation, is that things are becoming more flexible, so that it becomes, for me, it becomes easier to connect A to B and create a completely different result. Maybe even out of the box, things where the device was not meant to do a certain thing, and I'm like, hey, I think we can, if we connect this to that, then we could do this. And in a lot of cases, it was like, well, maybe you shouldn't, maybe that's not like the safest way to do things, but because things are becoming more flexible, there's more integrations, it becomes more stable to do things like that. And I'm a huge fan of that. I think we're going to see that keep happening. And you gave a great example in the beginning where you have like a phone as an example, but like you have a device that might be older, but because of a software update, because of a firmware update, has completely new functions, maybe has that NDI integration or the other software integration. And to me, that I love it. I really, really enjoy seeing that happen.
All right. Adaline, we'll wrap up here with you. As somebody who lives and breathes on a campus, right? One of the things that at least 100 years ago when I was a technology manager, we had several heated discussions with our IT network about putting systems on the network. When you guys are talking with the IT staff at USC, is it something where they're freaked out, holy cow, you're going to mess up our network, or this is easy because we can do pen testing and all that jazz, or do they not even mess with it and you get your own network and this you stay over here and stay off of our network?
Great question. So yes, you were right the first time. So as a part of the ITS org, we, Learning Environments Department, come under that org. So our network team do freak out. Every time we want something on the network, they freak out. They actually don't want us to touch their network, so they give us field officers, field technicians to come in and do whatever we need to get done in collaboration with our engineers and our architects. Of course, they have those deep conversations. But yeah, we always end up hearing those great stories. I call them great stories in our meetings that we need this done, but they're not moving quick enough. So we do get that pushback. However, to touch a little bit on what Emile and Steve have been saying, flexibility and adaptability all boils down, in my opinion, to learning and development. Meaning, we need to train our customers. We need to educate them. We need to have orientations. We need to have trainings. We need to have digital resources, right? Everything is the virtual world now, so it should be easy to just facilitate an open house. Do something. Don't wait until a year later to want to do something. Why can't we do it quarterly or however, like a month or so before a new release? Why can't we have little sessions like these, like just to educate people? I feel like if we educate our customers, our society at large, we would get a lot less pushback and more adaptability going on.
And it's going to be a good place to stop this entire conversation about flexibility and adaptability. I like that. Thank you all so much. Ms. Jean Greenblatt from Control Concepts. How do people connect with you or Control Concepts?
You can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. You could reach my company, Control Concepts, at controlconcepts.net. Of course, I have to mention you can reach me here with my partner, Rich Fregosa, who always is very kind in promoting our show, and we want to make sure that you come tune in to us here at AVNation.tv and check out A State of Control about the control programming and automation aspects of the industry.
Steve's been doing this for a minute. He's over 100 episodes, so absolutely go check him out. Mr. Emile, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Socialure?
You can go to socialure.com. You can even go to socialure.com/creative call and schedule a call with me and talk more. You can also go on Twitter, Twitter/Escapation, but you'll probably be surprised by all the images of NFTs and monkeys and stuff like that, because that's the stuff that I've been into. So the better way is LinkedIn. It is LinkedIn Directive Creator on LinkedIn, and you will be able to find me. Or you just find my name on Google. Like I think we discussed that earlier. If you type my name, there's not a lot of results. So,
there's not a lot of Emile Van de Coverings, and I'll make sure that Mitchell spells it correctly. Adaline, thank you, ma'am. You did fantastic. This was Adaline's first episode of AVWeek, so thank you. How do people connect with you or USC?
Thank you for having me. This was a great discussion. Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing this podcast alive. You could connect with me at tatuma@usc.edu or on LinkedIn. My name, Adaline Tatum, with an A, Adaline.
All right, very good. For me, for Tim Albright, do not follow me on the Twitters, because at this point, I am really excited by what the Bears are doing, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I am cautiously optimistic. Cautiously. September cannot get here quick enough. So, but go by the website if you would, please, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others, including Steve's State of Control that will be coming down the pipeline. We have reworked the Women in AV podcast, and two fantastic young ladies in the industry are taking care of that. Erica Carroll and Jennifer Goodyear. So check that out as well, EdTech and all the others, so check that out and more. Also, we are heading to Infocom, so if you are, you can register with us as well. You go to infocomshow.org. The show itself is the 10th through the 16th. The show floor is obviously the 14th, 15th, and 16th. The 10th is when they start education, but you can check that all out. And in probably about 2 weeks, we will have some information on both our Tweet Up and a couple other parties that we'll be hosting. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.